Hi there, I'm David Pumpkins, and I'm going to scare the heck out of you. What's my name? David S. Pumpkins. Any questions? I'm the multi-voice reviewer. I have many voices, but one opinion. Any questions? Okay, that'll be the last time I do my David Pumpkins impression. Does anybody ever miss Tom Hanks when he was funny instead of dramatic? Because I always remember when I was really young, I always seen Tom Hanks in a lot of comedies before he kept on appearing in dramatic films. Although Forrest Gump and The Terminal was not bad. But anyway, folks, happy Halloween, everybody! Oh, man! Oh, I love Halloween. I am full of the Halloween spirit. I don't know what he is, but he's awesome. And every time when the Halloween comes, I like to inject myself with some Halloween glee. I love costumes, I love candy, and I love Halloween. You know, I wouldn't be caught dead wearing a pumpkin suit. I mean, my style of Halloween, well, you pretty much see. My style, blue jeans, pumpkin shirt, and a leather jacket to make myself look cool, and for good measures, a happy Halloween wizard cap. It used to stick up like a detention hat, so I put some safety pins to make it bent. Make it look more modern, like something out of a Harry Potter movie. I mean, surely there's got to be some characters from Harry Potter who would wear hats like these. Anyway, enough about my style of Halloween and David Pumpkins. Since this is Halloween, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for me to review something that I remember watching. I remember watching when I was really, really young. I think this movie was made back in 2003 or 2004. It was during the time when I did had DirecTV before we can no longer keep cable because the bill was really expensive. So they had to cut us off. But there was a certain movie from the Disney Channel that I watched that I really did enjoy. And that Disney Halloween special I'm going to review for you folks is none other than Halloweentown. Yes, I remember this movie so much. Oh yeah, not to be confused with Nightmare Before Christmas Halloweentown. Although, if they had Tim Burton directing Halloweentown, this Halloweentown, it would have been a spin-off to Nightmare Before Christmas. Would you say so, Jack Skellington? I don't know. I mean, if Tim Burton did make Halloweentown and make it into a spin-off make Halloweentown be more of a spin-off to the movie, it would be a very entertaining movie that most of the die-hard fans, including yours truly, including you, Mr. Multi-Voice Reviewer, would be a very interesting spin-off. Thanks, Jack. Jack Skeleton, ladies and gentlemen. Even though he always likes Christmas so much, I prefer to have him appear on my show for Halloween purpose. But anyway, Halloweentown was a really, some people would say it's stupid, but it's entertaining to me, if you ask me. And of course, who you have starring in this movie is, of course, as you can see, Debbie Reynolds, Carrie Fisher's mother, who is in this movie. That's right. The mother of Princess Leia was in this movie. Now, in this movie, she's supposed to be playing a grandmother to these three kids, Marty, Dylan, and Sophie. But the point was, Marty, she loves Halloween. And I don't blame her. I love Halloween myself. Something I think me and her have in common. But the problem is her mother won't let her go out trick-or-treating or go to any Halloween parties at all. And Dylan, Dylan, he's a typical smart aleck, know-it-all nerd. Sounds a lot like that one kid I met named Dylan. He had glasses, and sometimes he does act like a smart know-it-all. But of course, one thing is a problem about this Dylan. He's a suck-up to his mom. And you know, that's one thing I do have a problem. I do have problems with suck-ups. I mean, I really hate brown-nosers and apple polishers. I used to be with people who are in charge. Sometimes I do get them in their good side, but most of the time I had to be very honest and not be too much of a suck-up. And bosses who would fire people for not being a suck-up are crazy. They should get themselves castrated and have their brains checked. But that's my opinion, of course. And also, here's another thing that's pretty surprising. The mother in this movie, Marty's mother, is played by the same actress who played April O'Neil on the live-action Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movie. Yeah, that's right. The actress who played April O'Neil in the Ninja Turtle live-action movie was in Halloweentown, and she's playing the mother who wants to have her kids avoid Halloween at all costs. Because here's the reason. The mother, she is a witch, but she didn't want to use any of her magic. And the other thing she's trying to do is try not to let any of her kids do any magic at all, and not letting them know that they're witches and warlocks. Dylan, it's too late for him. He's a nerdy, know-it-all little... I can't say it, but he just pissed me... Sorry. He just pees me off so much I want to rip his gag darn head! Because he's a suck-up to his mother and a know-it-all that I just want to tell him... every time he keeps on saying a lot of his intellectual stuff, I would like to tell him, oh, shut the heck up! But anyway, all that aside, Debbie Reynolds, who's the grandmother, she showed up to their house, and she gave them some candy, and even given her grandkids some costumes, even though it really peed her daughter a lot. I mean, she's a real buzzkill, and I hate people who are like that. Real killjoys. Anyway, even though the daughter tells Debbie Reynolds not to tell the kids about their homeland called Halloweentown, but she ignores them and shows them a book called Halloweentown, and it showed them all the monsters and everything. Turns out that Halloweentown existed, and the people who live there are actually monsters. Now, I know some of you are thinking, is Halloweentown going to be like the Tim Burton Nightmare Before Christmas Halloweentown? All dark and dreary, but a lot of monsters and creepiness involved? But, sadly in this movie, it's bright. It's bright, it's peaceful, and you see a lot of people in masks. Some of them are okay, some of them are kind of lame. But here's the problem. Debbie Reynolds starts telling her daughter that something's weird is going on in Halloweentown. And of course, Marty, she eavesdropped on their conversation. It turns out that some of the people from Halloweentown, they started to change. They started getting all mean and hateful. And then after that, they disappeared. But the daughter, she didn't want to get involved. I mean, she was like, oh, come on, my people disappeared too. It's called moving. But she's trying to say that there's something serious going on in Halloweentown. And she says, I cannot battle some force I have nothing to deal with. Nothing to do with. If I heard somebody who says got nothing to do with, it makes me want to say this. Anyway, Marty eavesdropped, so she decided to follow her grandmother, and Dylan decided to go with them. Even though Dylan doesn't believe what Marty says, but I mean, he doesn't believe what Marty says because he thinks she's crazy, but he decided to follow her nonetheless. And it turns out that here comes a Halloween-looking bus, and as they got it, when they sneak into the bus, they discovered that everybody in the bus are all monsters. And Dylan keeps explaining, saying like there's some kind of normal people doing a Halloween costume at the Mooch Lodge or something. But it turns out that the bus took them to Halloweentown. And as they were trying to find their grandmother, turns out that their younger sister Sophie she was following them too. They asked her, they thought she was asleep. She said, I was pretending. Now, some of the acting on some of the kids are a little, but they get better on the sequels. Yeah, there are sequels of Halloweentown. Anyway, some of the strange things have been happening lately because Debbie Reynolds, the family name, they go by the name of Cromwell. They're part of the Cromwell family who are witches and warlocks. In case you want to know. Anyway, it turns out something strange has happened. And Debbie Reynolds met this one witch named Harriet. She seemed to be fine and okay, but on the next scene, you start seeing her getting all and getting all ugly, looking like a wild animal. And they also meet their mayor, who is a warlock, who goes by the name of Cattlebar. Some name, Cattlebar. You see, what really happened, folks, is that when Debbie Reynolds' daughter, Gwen, left Halloweentown, she decided to turn her back against Halloweentown and start living in the mortal world. So she came to a Halloween party dressed as a witch and met her first human that she fell in love with, got married, had 3 kids, and he passed away. And I guess after the death, that's why she decided not to have their kids be witches and let them be normal in the world. You know, it's just like what Debbie Reynolds said, being normal is vastly overrated. And if you ask me, being normal is dull. You gotta be different. You gotta be creative. I mean, you gotta be different to be interesting. If you want to be normal, it makes you dull, boring, and want nothing to do with you. Think about it. Anyway, back on the story here. The only way they can defeat this horrible thing is happening in Halloweentown. What she needs to do is trying to bring Merlin's talisman back to life. It turns out that she found a talisman. It used to belong to Merlin back in King Arthur time. But now they need some new spells. Now, Debbie Reynolds trying to use some instant spell stuff, but it didn't work. Like she said, spells would be a lot better if you make it from scratch. So they're trying to find the ingredients until all of a sudden the mother showed up. She got her kids back and trying to force them to go back home to the mortal world. But now the bus has engine trouble, so now they're stuck. And also, it turns out that the mayor of Halloweentown had a pass with Gwen. I guess they both dated a long time ago, but she decided to take a different direction and met somebody else. And then there is this normal-looking kid who goes by the name of Luke in Halloweentown. He's a local punk. He becomes a big shot because he has a nose job and a few warts removed. Claims some mysterious figure did it. And of course, one thing I really did like on Halloweentown is their cab driver, who is a living, moving skeleton. I mean, the puppetry and the animatronics they used him was pretty awesome. Even though, now in the story, Gwen stayed in the mayor's office waiting for the bus to show up. But Sophie looked out the window and saw Grandma is with, their grandma, Debbie Reynolds, is with that Luke guy. So they had to follow him. And as they went to an old theater, turns out it was controlled by a hooded, big, flappy robe, scarecrow-looking guy. And what he's doing is he's turning all the monster people evil and have them frozen in time so they can come to the mortal world to conquer the mortal world, our world. But of course, spoiler alert, it turns out it's Cattle Bar. The reason why is because Marty's mother, Gwen, he says this to Gwen: "You should have chose me, the most powerful warlock of all. You would have ruled this place as a queen. But no, you had chosen a human instead." So that's the motive? Over a stupid rejection? I hear a lot of people who I hear people who take wrong path over some sort of rejection in the past, but come on. Couldn't he just get over it and have a better life with someone else? I know I did. I had a huge crush on this one girl in the past, but she only liked me as a friend, and she never liked me that way. Of course, it was kind of hard for me, but I got over it. And now I've been moving on, and right now I'm really happy with my Filipino girlfriend that I've been chatting in Messenger. I know some of you are going to be asking me, when am I going to be seeing her in person? Only time will tell if I have enough money for airplane fares and go all the way to the Philippines to meet her. And have somebody to take care of my grandma. But anyway, back to the story. So, all of a sudden, this evil, well, it's Cattle Bar anyway, Cattle Bar froze Debbie Reynolds and her daughter Gwen, so it's up to Marty, Dylan, and Sophie to try to find the ingredients in order to make the talisman back to life. All they need is a hair of a werewolf, sweat of a ghost, and a vampire fang. So, they went into a barber shop where a werewolf is a barber. Who ever heard of a werewolf who's a barber, who's covered in hair? And one thing is pretty funny about that werewolf. He kind of acts like a werewolf version of Austin Powers. He's going like, "Yeah, baby, looking all groovy, yeah, shagadelic." But they finally got hair from him. And the sweat of a ghost, they went into a fitness room, and they found a real-life ghost and a sweat box. So what Marty has to do, she has to turn up the heat while Dylan has to distract him. But of course, his distraction, his intellectual stuff is not good enough. So what Sophie did, she put a piece of towel over her head and going all woo, woo, and it pretty did distract him until Marty finally got the sweat of a ghost. Now they need is vampire fangs. So they went to the only place where they can get the vampire fang. They went all the way to the dentist, where the doctor, the dentist, is a tooth fairy, and his patient is a vampire. And it turns out this vampire has a really bad fang, so he has to remove it. And Marty, she just disguised herself as a nurse and easily got the vampire fang. Simple as that. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Anyway, they finally found the ingredient. They finally mixed it up, put it in the talisman, and said the words. Now, Marty couldn't remember the words, but Sophie remembered it. She thought, the words sound kind of pretty, so she made a song out of it, going like, Becky ma, Becky kefir, Becky yen, Kiedis fias and noise bit. So they both said it together, and the talisman started working. And then their grandmother told them that mortal see, mortal do. They always say that all the tradition from Halloweentown is pretty much similar to our tradition. So the only way for the talisman to work, they need to put it in the giant pumpkin in the middle of town. Oh yeah, and there's a bit of a history to it. You see, there's a history behind Halloweentown. A long time ago, humans and monsters used to live in peace, but it was a bad mix because there's a lot of humans who fear us. Who feared the monsters and tried to destroy them. So one witch from the past decided to make the humans miserable in return, which it makes them evil, which they are not. So they decided to create an alternate universe where all the monsters can live in peace and leave the humans alone. That's their history. But Cattlebar, he's trying to let all the monsters be evil, come to the mortal world, and wipe out the human race. And since they finally revived Debbie Reynolds and her daughter Gwen, aka April O'Neil, whatever you would like to call her, they finally figured out it was Calabar behind all this. So they're trying to do a spell to stop him. Now, Debbie Reynolds and April O'Neil, they try to do it together, but not powerful enough. And of course, Dylan, he got so mad at him that sparks starts flying out of his fingertips. So it turns out he's also a warlock. He needs to join with them to believe, even though he always keeps saying, No way, I'm a human, I'm a human, I'm no warlock, I'm a human. But he needs to believe. So he joined with them, and their powers destroyed Cattlebar. So, Halloweentown is safe once again. And of course, the guy named Luke, it turns out he was a goblin. He has a big nose, big ears, and he wasn't under a spell or anything. He just did what Cattlebar told him to do, and he made him good looking. And during that time when he was good looking, he wanted to have a date with Marty. I wouldn't blame him because the actress is really lovely. Anyway, now April O'Neil decided to start trusting Marty. And of course decided to teach her daughter the spells and how to fly a broom. So now they're going back to the mortal world. Oh, and the actress who plays Marty is Kimberly J. Brown. Anyway, after the first movie did pretty well, I guess the diehard fans want more of Halloweentown, so what they made is the sequel. Halloweentown 2, Cattlebar's Revenge. Where it turns out things are getting a whole lot better in their life, except Dylan, who's still a real pain in the butt. Pain in the ass. Anyway, and he meets this boy who seems to be all nice and kind and cool, and all of a sudden he stole a spell book from Marty's house. And of course, it turns out that he is Calabar's son. And his idea, he wants to turn all the mortals into monsters by having everybody wearing costumes looking like monsters, and with his spell, he turns all the normal humans into monsters, and everybody in Halloweentown, they start turning into human beings, except it's all boring and dull, that it's all black and white. So it's up to Debbie Reynolds and Marty to set things right. And their acting performance they turned out to be a whole lot better than the first movie. And they finally defeated Calabar's son, and everything went back to normal once again. And then they made a third movie, which I was kind of surprised of, but anyway. Where now a group of monsters wants to live in the mortal world, so they have them all in disguise as human beings. And this third movie is called Halloweentown High. I was a little shocked on this one because I thought that Marty's going to go to Halloweentown and to their high school, but no, she's going to live her life in high school with all the young monsters in disguise. And of course, Dylan, he has one of the monsters who decided to go with him. Now, everybody would think that, Dylan, he's too much of a human judgmental being that he doesn't like the monster girl because she's a monster, and the monster girl doesn't like him because he's human. And some people would think that something would happen, that they both would end up together and probably fall in love, but sadly, didn't happen. Dylan was about ready to kiss her, but she was like, no, I don't like you that much. I don't like you that way. So, they decided to become friends. Too bad. I always like romance between a human and a monster. Especially when the monster turns out to be a woman. And also, there is a group of Monster Council who sense danger is happening. There's a group of human beings who hates monsters, call themselves the Knights. And what they're trying to do is trying to let the monsters look bad so the rest of the world can destroy any living monsters who lives among us. And even they've done something really bad by turning all the normal human beings into monsters. So it's up to Marty and her grandmother to stop them. Which they did pretty well. And now humans are starting to see that the monsters and the monster in Halloweentown are not as bad as they assume to be. And of course, Marty found new romance with this young guy. But of course, it didn't end there. They did it once again with the fourth adaptation, which is called Return to Halloweentown. Except there's one problem. Kimberly J. Brown is not in this movie, as you can see. Turns out that Marty has been recast by this actress, which I've seen in a lot of movies. She was the love interest in that superhero movie parody. And also, not many people know, she also did some voices for SpongeBob. Look her up! Anyway, in this story, Return to Halloweentown, Marty goes to college. And, she starts knowing about her family's history, but it turns out that the Cromwell family are sort of the ones who's trying to keep the balance between the monsters and the humans, between Halloweentown and the mortal world. And Marty goes into the past in medieval time and meet her great grandmother. Now, I haven't watched Return of Halloweentown because of the recast. Sometimes I always hate watching movies where they had the character that I like get recast. have the character played by my favorite actor get recast. I mean, I'm not into that, but I kind of changed a bit. Oh, and here's another thing. It turns out she also went to the Halloweentown school, which kind of makes me think of another franchise. Ace. Now, she is a witch, so she went to a school of witchcraft and wizardry. Hey, someone out there, I think J.K. Rowling is about to sue. Relax, Potter. Come on, a lot of people know that J.K. Rowling got your story based from The Worst Witch. It's pretty obvious. So, I don't think she ain't gonna sue anybody on that one. Dang, you're right. Anyway, oh, love your hat. Thanks, Potter. Anyway, folks, this is my review for the day so any of you enjoy this Halloweentown review, please leave a comment down below, hit like and subscribe. Now, this might be the end of Halloweentown, but to me, I gotta keep the whole thing going. So, stay tuned for more Multi-Voice-Oween, even though it's gonna be, November, and Thanksgiving gonna be coming up, but I don't know any Thanksgiving specials. So, I'm probably gonna be reviewing some more Halloween theme franchises until December. So, happy Halloween, everybody, and thank you for watching.